ESPN Stephen A. Smith called out the Jets yesterday, and it sparked a lot of controversy. Mainly Garrett Wilson and Jarvis Brownlee Jr. responded to him as pretty much he just called out the New York Jets in the same way Todd McShay called out the Jets just a couple of days ago. So we'll dive into this on today's show. Overall, I think Stephen A. just made a fool out of himself, and we'll give you guys my thoughts here shortly. But let me ask you guys this, the question of the day here on the channel. How long have you been a fan of the New York Jets? Obviously, it's been tough times here in New York. You guys chime in down below in the comment section and let me know how long you have been a fan of the Jets. All right, so Stephen A. He was on First Take, and he was talking about the New York Jets, and he was calling them out. He said, I'd eat something to provoke myself to have food poisoning where I'm like garbage before playing for the Jets. I'm telling you right now, whatever I could do to be alive and be okay in the end, but to ruin their thoughts of ever wanting me on their roster, I would do. And I go back to college before I'd play for the Jets. They are a football atrocity. They're awful. I mean, straight garbage. They're horrible. Horrible, okay? They are the place to go if you want to sink, if you want to dissipate, if you want to just rot away. They are horrible. If I was a parent, my child wouldn't even go to the draft. I'm not playing. This was Stephen A. hopping in his bag. This felt like I was watching 96 Michael Jordan listening to this when he first came out with it. This was classic Stephen A. And obviously, he, for right reason, should call out the Jets. Like the New York Jets were an absolute atrocity last year. They were the worst football team in the National Football League. But I think he is just taking this too far. And almost I feel like every NFL media member, NFL insider, they're just using the Jets as just, the butt end of a lot of their jokes because, yes, they did have a bad season. But we have seen bad seasons in the past across other NFL teams. Like, yes, we all understand the 15-year playoff drought. We all understand, like last year, 32nd in point differential, 32nd in turnover differential, 32nd in yard differential, the only team ever to rank last in all three of these categories. So it is not news that the New York Jets were a complete joke this past season. And the Jets right now, they just can't catch a break. I mean, Todd McShay calling him out a couple of days ago. Now Stephen A. Smith on First Take calling him out, and they're just taking advantage of the situation for clicks. And I still think it's ludicrous to think that a young player in the NFL who is, or not in the NFL, but is trying to get in the NFL would just not go to the NFL draft because they don't want to play for the New York Jets. Okay, would they not want to play for the Tennessee Titans? Would they not want to play for the Cleveland Browns? Would they not want to play for the Las Vegas Raiders? Like, there are some horrible teams in the NFL. And yes, the Jets are probably the worst of them all right now. But it's not like the Jets are significantly worse than the Titans or significantly worse than the Raiders. Like, come on. I just think the Jets, people are taking advantage of them having a historically bad season. And Garrett Wilson, he did chime in on this. And I completely agree with Garrett Wilson here. He says, damn, you got to be a real sellout. And above all, a square to be on ESPN nowadays. Used to love that show. I wholeheartedly agree with this. ESPN has been a joke over the last couple of years. I'm 26 years old. I grew up watching ESPN every single day. I used to love it. It is the biggest joke of a sports media company out there. I mean, that's why you guys should hit that subscribe button and subscribe to all Chat Sports channels because we do a way better job than what those squares do over there at ESPN. And Garrett Wilson is 100% right. And also good on Garrett. Like, he should be calling him out. And he should be going back at a guy like Stephen A. Smith because he probably still wears that Jets jersey with pride and he still loves to be a New York Jet at the end of the day. So I wholeheartedly agree with Garrett Wilson defending his guys, defending his organization, but also Jarvis Brownlee Jr. also responded to Stephen A., pretty much hinting that Stephen A. did not have a professional football career. So good on Jarvis Brownlee here too, because I'm sure a lot of these guys are sitting back and saying like, yeah, we understand we did not have a good football season. We understand we are the joke of the NFL. But there are other teams out there. Like, why aren't the Titans catching strays? Why aren't the Raiders catching strays? And everybody is just kind of doubling down and just dunking on the Jets, which I just think is, a little ludicrous. How about we talk about the Jets' future potentially? How about we talk about them having the best draft capital out of any team in the NFL, $100 million in free agency, but nobody wants to talk about that. They want to talk about this team being a disaster last year when they had the worst quarterback in NFL history to ever play. Obviously, the Jets were tanking. Obviously, all those numbers, they're a byproduct of having a guy like Brady Cook play some of the worst football we have ever seen at the quarterback position. And no one eligible in the NFL draft, I will stand on this take, will turn down the opportunity to play for the Jets. Because at the end of the day, it's still New York. You're still getting drafted to the NFL. No team, and especially a quarterback like Dante Moore, Fernando Mendoza, is going to turn down a massive, lucrative contract that the number 2 overall pick can offer. I think it's ludicrous. I think it's just these guys, again, engagement baiting, trying to get clicks because you see this contract, $9.5 million year 1, $12 million year 2, 14.5 year 3, and almost $17 million in year 4 of that contract. Yes, Phil Knight in Oregon. They could toss Dante Moore $10 million of NIL for year 1, but they can't match year 2, 3, and 4 of giving Dante Moore that guarantees of no doubt you are going to be signing a 4-year, $52 million contract. I think it's just a little too much. I'm not going to overreact to this, and say like, oh, Stephen A's wrong. Like, no, he's probably right in saying the Jets are the worst team in the National Football League, but I think they take it too far by saying these guys aren't going to want to play for the Jets. These kids are going to be thrilled when they get drafted. They've been working their whole lives for this. And it is still New York. Jets, they still have a great brand at the end of the day. So I just think it's a little too much. But hey, we will have you guys covered with all the NFL draft and off-season coverage right here. Even when a guy like Stephen A or Todd McShay call it your favorite football team, we'll keep you guys posted with it all. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button today and lock us in as your go-to Jets YouTube channel. Would really appreciate it. We're actually closing in here on 12,000 subscribers. So if you guys could, hit that subscribe button today. And coming up next, we'll talk more about this crazy situation going on in Jetland. But today's episode is brought to you guys by PrizePicks. And whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard. But in life and on PrizePicks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never stops, and PrizePicks lets you take control. And if you guys download the PrizePicks app today, plug in that promo code CONS, you guys will get hooked up with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code CONS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks has a brand new feature out there called Early Payouts. So if your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. You guys can find your community on PrizePicks. They have a brand new social feeds feature where you can share your PrizePicks lineups with your friends. So download the app today. Plug in promo code CONS. Get hooked up with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Promo code CONS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. A massive shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's edition of the Jets Report. Shout out to PrizePicks. It's good to be right. All right, so I do want to kind of go back at Stephen A here because mainly I want to talk about just the quarterback position specifically and why they think like, oh, the Jets are such a disaster for a quarterback to go to compared to a lot of other teams that could be drafting a quarterback high in this year's class. So first off, Connor Hughes does a great job covering both New York football teams here. But he says, and once again, there will be warnings for top prospects like Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore to do whatever they can to avoid Gotham City, where promise and potential are said to go to die. It's inevitable. It's almost misguided. The reality is that the Jets, yes, the Jets, may present the best situation for a young quarterback to thrive among quarterback-needy teams expected to pick in the top 10. The infrastructure is there regardless of reputation. 100% agree. And let's just talk about those teams. We can break this down because you're acting like the Jets are so much worse of a situation than the Raiders, the Browns, and the Cardinals. Just open your eyes. Pull up the depth charts. Pull up the rankings. Like, this data is available for people. The Raiders. Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers. Fantastic. They don't have any wide receivers. They have one of the worst offensive lines in the league. The Cleveland Browns. Okay, Quinshon Judkins, he's a stud. Harold Fanning, David Njoku. Their tight end position and running back position. Check that box. They don't have wide receivers. They have one of the worst O-lines in the league. The Cardinals. Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride, they got good weapons. They don't have an offensive line or a running back. But the Jets, with Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Mason Taylor, Jeremy Ruckert, and their offensive line is solid. It's about middle of the pack in the NFL, but it's way better than all of these offensive lines. These are probably the 3 worst offensive lines in the National Football League. So just from an offensive perspective here, the Jets situation is the best. That's why I don't understand this. Like, also the play callers, the Raiders don't have a coach. The Cardinals don't have a coach. The Browns have a coach. The Jets are the only team with a coach and also an offensive coordinator who is well respected in league circles. I don't understand this. Like what? Stephen A. Like, is Fernando Mendoza, should he not go to the Raiders because of what they have? should a quarterback say, I'm not going to the Cardinals because of what they have? Like, it's just ludicrous. They're just using the Jets for clicks. They're using the Jets to dunk on them. And by no means am I saying the Jets are a good, landing spot for a quarterback. But it's solid enough compared to those other teams. And also, the icing on the cake here that nobody, like maybe, I don't know, Dylan, did people forget what happened at the trade deadline? Maybe I'm living a different reality, but like people are forgetting that the Jets don't have 5 first-round picks over the next 2 seasons. Did I forget about that? Did Stephen A. forget about that? Did Todd McShay forget about that? That's how you turn a team around. Let's just say you hit on that quarterback. You hit on a Dante Moore. Then pick number 16. What if you hit on Mansour Delane? Then with your 2 picks in the second round, what if you hit on another wide receiver? What if you hit on an offensive guard? And then what if with your 3 first-round picks next year and $100 million in cap space, what if you just start hitting on guys defensively? The Jets suck. But it's not like there is not an avenue where they can turn this around. I hate the word potential in sports because potential is not a real thing. But the Jets do have the potential to turn this around. They just got to hit on a couple of draft picks to improve this roster. So, just listen, if you're going to dunk on the Jets, at least dunk on the Raiders too. Dunk on the Titans too. Dunk on the Cardinals. Dunk on the Browns. It's just a little ludicrous that the Jets are just getting, all the butt end of all these jokes. But, hey, if you guys made it to the end and you guys are diehard Jets fan, appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. Just hit me with the Go Jets down below in the comment section. We'll get on out of here. As always, Go Jets.